Good evening. This is Bulletin at 8. We're coming to you live from the capital of the Kingdom of Eswatini, Mbabane. My name is Notile Sitole. First up, here's a look at tonight's headlines. Members of the Ministry of Finance Portfolio Committee in the House of Assembly have encouraged the ministry to work on the early retirement program so that civil servants who want to take early retirement can be keen to do so. Construction of earth dams will be officially launched next month. The acting Minister for Labour, Polile Shakantu, says priority should be given to programs that will empower the youth. Now our bulletin in detail. Members of the Ministry of Finance Portfolio Committee in the House of Assembly have encouraged the ministry to work on the early retirement program so that civil servants who want to take early retirement can be keen to do so. The committee was debating the ministry's performance report for the financial year 2020-2021.
The Minister, Neil Rickenberg, in his preamble informed the committee that government continues with structural reforms to several expenditure items, among others the government's wage bill. He says the wage bill is by far the largest single expenditure item and has been growing rapidly over the past years, thus threatening fiscal sustainability. The minister says the consolidation plan includes an early voluntary exit and retirement scheme for civil servants. He implored the committee to adopt the report and pass the budget allocation for 2021-2022 financial year.
Central transfers have increased by over 60% from 1.14 billion yearly in 2019-2020 to 1.87 billion in 2020-2021. The increase was due to COLA allocation, not increases, and other head allocations have been put in pending Parliament approval. Mr. Chairman, I request that the committee review and approve this report.
Some members of the committee encouraged the minister to work around the conditions of the early exit scheme.
Some time ago, they must pay and suppliers are categorized. MSMEs must be paid within 15 days. 30 days, the categorization of suppliers. And I think we need to relook into that.
Government revenue, including grants in the 2021-2022 fiscal year, is projected to reach 19.45 billion. For Eswatini TV News, I am Linton Gule in Parliament.
Next month, the Minister for Agriculture will officially launch the construction of the earth dams project. The Minister, Jabulani Mabuza, said this when delivering the ministry's performance report for the financial year 2020-2021 before the ministry's portfolio committee in the House of Assembly.
The Minister, Jabulani Mabuza, informed the committee that in the last financial year, the ministry received a budget allocation of 1.5 billion emalangeni. 17.8% of the budget was not utilized. The minister, however, assured the committee that the money is going to be used during the current financial year, since the ministry will launch the earth dam construction project next month.
Farmers asukumile impela asibambisa kulolo hlangothi siveteke nokuthi nasendzabeni 34 bahlonishwa ngoba siphindze sigadze sicaphele ukuthi kungabi netifo even letingaphazamisa i-trade iqhubekile i-department yasibambela kulolo hlangothi kahle kakhulu ta controleka tifo noma ngabe ngilwaluphi ihlobo kuyasetshenzwa sibili siphindze sakhona nekuthi sibambise live ngekwakha emadibhi last hope siyaqhubeka ke iprogram leqhubekako bayasibambisa nabo bahlonishwa kakhulu kuleyo program batawukhumbula ukuthi through ngale ngakubo micro projects kuye bese kuba nekusebenzisana nelitiko umsebenzi uqhubeke.
The members applauded the ministry for recovering livestock which was stolen and taken to neighboring states.
Ngabe malini manje isubvention lengenako lapha kaPortfolio. In the near future, put any plans this sample somehow the Cotona. Maybe when you are getting the Parliament was the Advanced Function, a plan of the Cotton. I was by expand there by Bush, by Post, by Ubuna, and the same of Piano and Pond.
Masha Wutzikatzen, Tishating Homotati Jova, every 6 months I'm a to avoid Gupunda. ajoba every 6 months tingomo avoid ukufunda. Sithe uhulumeni masabona ukuthi ude imali. Ngathi mina i-second option yokuthi nithathe lo mthwalo nithumele labo madibhane botshela labantu.
Maize production in the 2020 season was 86,547.9 metric tons. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Lincoln Gule, Parliament.
The acting Minister for Labour, Pulisha Kantu, says the provision of financial support for youth empowerment programs should be the program and budget proposals for the 2022-2023 biennium of the International Labour Organization governing body's priority. Minister Shakantu was speaking when representing the Africa Group in a virtual meeting for ILO's governing bodies.
Minister Shakantu, who delivered her statement on behalf of Africa Group, stated that the COVID-19 pandemic has created a massive job losses locally and in other countries. Minister Shakantu, who delivered her statement on behalf of Africa Group, stated that the COVID-19 pandemic has created a massive job losses locally and in other countries. Shakantu says youth employment programs need to be supported financially for the sustainability of enterprises as generators of employment.
The Africa Group had expressed keen interest to the provision of financial support to the follow-up action on youth employment. Actually, my group was desirous that the PNB should have a separate output for the support of this action so that it does not get lost in other equally important outputs. We still hold strong view that the PNB should pay special attention to vulnerable groups, amongst which obviously the youth is a majority. Statistical records will show that the highest level of unemployment amongst many countries is on young persons. Therefore, inasmuch as the work proposed to be done at country level on increased capacity of member states to formulate and implement labor market programs and employment services for transitions to decent work over the life course, with particular focus on young and older persons, as indicated in paragraph 119, is commendable. But our group remain unsatisfied with the projected impact of these interventions as indicated in the results framework, wherein the indicated total target is 22 member states, amongst which only 7 are from Africa.
The minister further stated that the implementation of labor market programs and employment services for transitions to decent work, particularly focusing on youth and older persons, is recommended. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Ephoxweni.
The Public Transport Association has met to deliberate on a way forward and their readiness regarding the opening of schools. Chairperson of the Public Transport Association, Sihlangu Hlabatsi, says the reason why they decided to convene the meeting is to ensure that COVID-19 regulations are adhered to without fail. The meeting was held at Mbabane Police Station.
Since the government has issued various statements regarding the opening of schools in the country, Public Transport Association then decided to convene a meeting to forge a way forward on how to ensure that school-going children are safe when using public transport in case the schools reopen. Public Transport Chairperson Sihlangu Hlabatsi explains about the meeting.
Nathi sibaka transport sihlale phansi sibuke ukuthi ingabe bantwana sidawubalayisha njani baye etikolweni. Namhlanje nalo usihlangene sisabukusana lokho ukuthi ngiphi indlela lesingayisebenzisa ukuthi bantwana baye esikoleni baphephile, bahlandekile, bangakhoni ukuthelelana nalabanye. Sisayibuka ke indlela, yona le ndlela indlela elikhuni kakhulu ngokuthi timo tiyehlukana abantwana bahlala endaweni letehlukile kakhulu kodwa ke siyacabanga ukuthi kude lokuhlula ukuthi abantu bahlale phansi bakukhulumise.
Hlabatsi further stated that as an association, their aim is to support government at all times and to ensure that children are safe from contracting the virus when using all modes of public transport to and from school, especially during this trying time of COVID-19. For Eswatini TV News, Zodwa Dlamini with Muzum Konda in Babane.
Young people from the 4 regions have come together to form a 60-member organization which calls for greater action to fight climate change, especially among the youth in communities. Zinile Nzinisa, chairperson of the organization called Biodiversity Network, says the youth needs to be educated on policies and strategies for climate change so that they can make a meaningful contribution in this field.
Zinile Nzinisa, the chairperson of the Biodiversity Network, says the youth have the potential to play an important role in preventing events that could lead to climate change. She says this can be done if they can only be allowed to take an active part in decision-making involving crafting of local policies and regulations on climate change. She explains the mandate of their organization.
Saying that we are already part of this global network and we actively want to change and conserve our biodiversity, we decided to start a national chapter involving or rather engaging young people who are interested in environmental issues and solutions. So in Swaziland is very diverse. There are benefits of this diversity socially, ecologically and economic. Hence, it is necessary for us as young people and the nation at large to conserve our biological diversity. And the aim of this network was to engage people, acknowledge young people that they are the future, they are future leaders, they will be responsible for what happens to our planet in the next few years. Hence, we find it necessary to engage them in this in these processes of policies that have to do with the conservation of biodiversity and other environmental issues.
She says they will sensitize the youth in communities on climate change following the COVID-19 regulations. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nilswen Langamandla with Sondo Mlangeni in Babane.
National Agricultural Marketing Board Communications Officer Melusi Dlamini says the company is working on the issue of paying vegetable farmers their money on time. Dlamini says the reason why there was a delay to some of the farmers to receive their money is because of the impact caused by the second wave of COVID-19, resulting to some of their employees being infected by the virus. Dlamini said this during an interview with Eswatini TV News in Manzini.
Following various complaints from vegetable farmers regarding the delay in their payments from NAMBOARD, National Agricultural Marketing Board's Communications Officer Melusi Dlamini says they are very much aware of the issue and the company is working on addressing it soon. Dlamini further stated that the reason why the rejects are not brought back to the farmers is to ensure that the required standards are met.
We had major challenges as a country. The borders were closed and a lot of Swazis, made great resolutions to go back to farming, to go back to producing our own food. This increased drastically the number of farmers that we were working with. Secondly, Ngosi, you will remember that as we had to start managing, making payments during COVID, we had to redesign our systems and start paying using electronic transfers, using mobile money. And there was a bit of a mix-up in terms of the numbers, where you found that the numbers that we have on our records for paying farmers do not match the numbers that the bank has in their records, which meant that a couple of farmer payments were rejected, and we only realized after rejection that some farmers haven't been paid. But we have been following up. We do apologize to our farmers, to our very important stakeholders, and we want to promise that this is something that we are working day and night to resolve.
Eswatini National Agricultural Union President Boy Matse says he believes that the issue will be solved amicably without further delays.
Ngoba ngobe kufanele sibalimi babatshele kahle ukuthi into yasinazo 1 2 3 sofika la hayi lokuthi nje babathwentele babodwa lena ngoba nje umsho ichaza nje ibhizinisi ukuyabela kakhulu kuphela.
Dlamini then apologized to the farmers for the delay, and he says he hopes that such will not happen again. For Eswatini TV News, Zodwa Dlamini with Muzam Konda and Bawetu Stole in Manzini.
Following the arrival of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine in Eswatini, the Shiseleni health sector and its multi-sectoral stakeholders on Tuesday held a workshop to prepare for the arrival of the vaccine in the region.
Tabile Masugu, who is the acting regional public health matron in the Shiselweni region, says even though there's some anxiety about the side effects of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine that has led some countries like the Netherlands, France, Italy and Germany to suspend the use of the vaccine, following reports of 3 hospitalizations of medics who received the vaccine in Norway. Masugu says as the Shiselweni health sector, they are still motivated to receive the vaccine, as the World Health Organization said on Monday that there is no evidence that any health incidents were caused by the vaccine shot.
Today, as the multi-sectoral team of Shiselweni region, we are gathered here to learn more about the vaccine. The coronavirus vaccine AstraZeneca has arrived in the country, ready for distribution. Yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions, but the vaccine is going to help us not to, even if we get the virus, we won't be getting the fatal one.
Ngwane Teachers Training College Principal Dr. Amos Mahlalela, who also attended the workshop, showed great excitement for the arrival of the vaccine. Mahlalela says he is hopeful that the vaccine will expedite the going back to normal of learning.
We are hopeful that it will enable us to gather again, because now we are scattered. For sure, we do give our students lectures online, but there are things which we would like to do together, like the writing of tests, so that we can monitor quality. Because our mandate is to produce quality teachers. If we administer a test and we are aware that these people were supervised in their writing, then we'll have confidence in the outcome. We are glad that a vaccine is around, which will enable us together and do our normal business.
The cumulative confirmed COVID-19 cases by region report issued by the Ministry of Health on Monday indicates that the Shiselweni region has now recorded 1,512 cases since the outbreak of the virus, making it the region with the least numbers in the country. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Sifiso Nxumalo. It's Muva Shongwe in Hlangano.
Eswatini Epilepsy Organization's director Mbuso Muni Mahlalela says experiencing seizures while in water can be life-threatening for epileptic people. Mahlalela says as a precautionary measure, epileptic people should be kept away from water and fire.
For many people and the Eswatini Epilepsy Organization, the scariest aspect of epilepsy is not knowing when or where a seizure will occur. The Royal Eswatini Police Service reported that a 30-year-old man died while in the bath when he had an epileptic seizure. It is for that reason that the EEO Director Mbuso Muni Mahlalela appeals to parents and guardians not to leave epileptic people out of their sight.
Le seizure ayidzingi ukuthi kube ngemanti lafika emadolweni noma ngephasana kwemadolo noma nganendishi nje eyindishi magubudu. Once wabona le seizure uya ngalobuso wangasakhona ukuphefumula kulamandala lonawo sevele sowushonile, which means ngeke lesingathi si-organization wonke umuntu angamele ukuthi adi ukuthi umuntu lonesifo sekuwa kufuna kube nemuntu ladingo lokuthi into efana naleto ethambelana nemanti nemlilo angavami ukuthi abedwa.
This incident happens during the time when African countries, including the Kingdom of Eswatini, are working towards the advocacy toolkit, which was launched by the organization's patron, His Royal Highness Prince Banzile. The advocacy tool will address issues of medication, among others. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Babane.
The Eswatini Health and Research Review Board has approved 81 research applications for different fields, including tuberculosis, COVID-19 and HIV and AIDS. This was said by the chairperson of the board, Rudolph Mazia, when giving details of the board's performance since the beginning of the year.
The country coordinator of the Coalition of Informal Economy Associations, Eswatini, says it is important for their members to be informed about gender-based violence so that they will know how to fight against it. He says support is important in a family structure. He urges families to support each other, saying this can also go a long way in ensuring that no life is lost through this kind of crime. He continues to say, if men and women can relate to one another in a safe and complementary roles, gender-based violence can be a thing of the past. Sikonze says providing a listening ear free of judgment and providing accurate information to gender-based violence survivors is important. A study by the Royal Eswatini Police states that cases of gender-based violence increased by 38% in the year 2020 compared to the year 2019. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ndlangamandla in Babane.
May I apologize for the swap of stories back there. The Eswatini Health Research and Review Board has approved 81 research applications for different fields, including tuberculosis, COVID-19 and HIV and AIDS. This was said by the chairperson of the board, Rudolph Mazia, when giving details of the board's performance since the beginning of the year.
The country coordinator of the Coalition of Informal Economy Associations, Eswatini, says it is important for their members to be informed about gender-based violence so that they will know how to fight against it. He says support is important in a family structure. He urges families to support each other, saying this can also go a long way in ensuring that no life is lost through this kind of crime. He continues to say, if men and women can relate to one another in a safe and complementary roles, gender-based violence can be a thing. The chairperson of the Eswatini Health Research and Review Board, Rudolph Mazia, says they will make sure that the 81 research proposals that have been approved will follow the COVID-19 regulations, especially where participants are involved.
So generally, the applications are in the areas of HIV, TB, sexual and reproductive health and rights, and then health systems. We have received a few studies in the area of COVID, but they are not as many as the others. And with respect to prevention of infection that might spread through research, the board issued an announcement which was posted on our online platform through which we interact with researchers. And that announcement was letting researchers know that if your study will interact with members of the community or the public, we were recommending that those studies be suspended until such a time that the risk is much reduced.
The board says 3 applications were not approved. However, they are working with the researchers to help them with information to make their research befit the standard needed by the board for approval. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ndlangamandla in Babane.
A very good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Now we'll have a look at our sports news. Table Tennis Association President Phesi Zulu says the association has started the process of once again being an affiliate of the National Sports Council, where they have submitted different applications to be once registered again. This follows the suspension faced by the association last year after failing to meet certain required standards. Zulu was speaking to Eswatini TV Sports in Babane.
Table tennis sport was suspended by Eswatini Sports and Recreation Council last year. The main reason for their suspension was based on failing to meet required standards as a registered sporting code.
Sihlangene kanye ne-executive sizamile kwenda onke lama documents.
A year after the suspension, the association's president Phesi Zulu says they have begun process of regaining their status as a sport and as an association. Zulu says they have submitted all required elements to Eswatini Sport Council in order to be back to the activities.
Asengale ka Sports Council lapho babuka khona ukuthi konke lesikwendile si-executive kusemthethweni.
Zulu added that once their submission is approved, they will begin programs of developing the sport, including taking the sport to all the 4 regions of the country. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, Mbabane.
The African Football Confederation President Dr. Patrice Motsepe says his biggest wish is to ensure that when he leaves office in the next 4 years, issues pertaining to players' salaries and bad management of club directors become a thing of the past. Motsepe says through this, the football in Africa will become the best in the world. Motsepe was speaking during a press conference held in Sandton, South Africa.
Roughly 5 days after being elected as African Football Confederation President, South African billionaire Dr. Patrice Motsepe is on the course to ensure that African football clubs become fully professional. In a press conference held in Sandton in the Republic of South Africa, which was conducted virtually, Dr. Motsepe highlighted that issues of salaries for players and clubs management will be a thing of the past come when his term in the office is over.
We need money to pay the players competitively, because we will not be able to keep the best players in Africa for the medium to long term if we don't compete. And I know from experience, because there are some leagues in Europe that we pay more money to our players already in South Africa than what they earn in Sweden, in Denmark, in Norway, in Netherlands, and many other countries. So it is already, we are already competing, but we need so much more resources, financing for the whole of the continent.
Other issues raised by Motsepe include issues of TV rights, which he believes should be an immediate solution, where football should benefit from sponsorships.
We need to get the private sector to sponsor African football. Huge, we must increase the sponsorship for the AFCON, make it significantly more substantial. We must increase the sponsorship for the Champions League, the African Champions League. We've got to get sponsorship for COSAFA, for all of the regions.
He concluded highlighting that he'll begin a journey of visiting all the football associations on the continent to get to know their challenges. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, pictures sourced from CAF.
Well, that's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at tonight's headlines. Members of the Ministry of Finance Portfolio Committee in the House of Assembly have encouraged the ministry to work on the early retirement program so that civil servants who want to take early retirement can be keen to do so. Construction of earth dams will be officially launched next month. The acting Minister for Labour, Polile Shakantu, says priority should be given to programs that will empower the youth. That brings us to the end of our bulletin this evening. Allow me to leave you now with the weather update from us here at Eswatini TV. Thank you for watching. Good night.